everybody, and welcome to our webinar today, using Microsoft Teams to drive engagement and collaboration in your business. We're so glad that you took the time to join us today. And my name is Eleni Lepo. I'm the Director of Marketing here. And also joining me is Adam Atwell. He's our Cloud Solutions Architect and your presenter today. There's Adam now. Hi, Adam.
Hello.
We're so excited to see so many of you interested in learning more about Microsoft Teams, and we're excited to show you how to use it even better than you already are. For those of you joining us that may not be familiar with Kite Technology, we are a managed IT services provider and consulting firm, and we work with businesses across the country. We've been around for almost 30 years now, and our goal is to help the businesses we work with leverage technology so that they can operate more effectively, be more secure, and improve their overall business performance. I've highlighted some of the services we offer here on the slide. So if you'd like to learn more about what we do and how we might be able to help you with your technology needs, please send us a note in the Q&A panel or contact us after the webinar, and we'd be happy to set up a conversation. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Adam, and I will see you all a little bit later for questions. Thanks, Adam. It's all yours.
Thanks, Eleni. Appreciate everyone being here today. As Eleni said, my name is Adam Atwell. I am the Cloud Solutions Architect here at Kite Technology Group. I've been here in 10 years going on here. I almost get full credit for that. Been in various different technical leadership roles, and for the last 3 to 5 years, I've been working on our Microsoft 365 vision and leading that charge. I am a husband of one and a father of two, and excited to be here with you guys. So let's dive into the agenda. So today we're going to highlight how to do better engagement with chat calling inside of Teams. We'll talk about some conference functionality, some customizations to the Teams app, as well as some integrations, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So as most of you know, if you're a Teams user, and I'm sure almost everyone here is, we have Teams is really the center or the cornerstone to lots of different ways to collaborate. You can manage projects, you can host meetings, you can collaborate on documents, you can manage your contacts, you can integrate with other business applications, you can store your files, and then of course you can chat and call. But we know that Teams is really the center of all of these things. And for a lot of us outside of our line of business apps that we use, it really is the cornerstone of where we work today. Teams really has benefits across the organization. It's going to help drive value to your business as a whole. It'll allow your folks to communicate with ease and really keep that communication persistent across the organization, no matter where you're at, whether you're on a mobile device, desktop, or web. It's going to allow you to, of course, not just keep that business running, but it's going to allow you to have meetings start more quickly. You'll have all kinds of options and ways you can interact and connect inside of your meetings. But really, it's going to go and be a place where your folks can collaborate, communicate, and really connect together. And then, of course, for IT professionals, it's a place that we really get excited about because it's places where we can go and manage it well, secure it end to end. And of course, we can do things like have uptime. It's not a server we need to maintain on site. We can make it available and make sure that it's highly available wherever you're at. So Teams momentum is kind of crazy. At this point, there is over 115 million active daily users. These stats are a little bit old by now, but having more than 200 million meetings, meeting participants in a single day, 30 billion collaboration minutes. Those metrics are really just kind of astounding if you think about it. If you go on a little bit and you think about, Teams, a lot of folks would kind of draw this line and they'd say, well, Teams is, it's a place where we have our meetings. It's a place where we can communicate. It's a place where maybe we chat a bit. There's a couple things really that we see, and I actually forgot to address this. I'm glad the question just came in. And it's a double question, which is awesome. Let me cover this slide and I'll go and answer that question. I appreciate them. The Teams really is it's an employee experience platform. We like to think of it as a communication platform, but it's more than that. It's going to allow you to access your company resource, your insights about what your folks are doing, how they're using the product. We'll let them see and help plan time for their own mental well-being with helping you with Microsoft Viva and things like that. And then it'll help you learn and share knowledge and communicate. And so really it's a whole platform that folks can use and engage in. I'm going to pause here, and we don't typically answer questions in the midst of the presentation, but Eleni and I covered this and I just omitted it from the beginning of the conversation. A lot of you are probably wondering, well, hey, why are you using Zoom and why not Teams? Great question. Thank you both Adam and Lynn for asking it. And I'll tell you, here's why. One, we were using GoTo for a long time, and we recently were evaluating what we wanted to do inside of our marketing team. Eleni runs that. And she said, I want to give Zoom a try. So we've been giving that a go. Microsoft doesn't have all of the robust analytics and features that Zoom does yet. They have it inside of some of their Dynamics platform, which is an extra add and a whole nother platform to run and manage on top of the Microsoft 365 platform. But right now, it's just not in a place yet, the webinar functionality, where it supports enough of what we need in terms of metrics and participation, analytics, those kinds of things. And so I hope that answers your question. A little bit later on in the presentation, you guys are going to get to see what the webinar experience looks like today, and maybe it's enough for what you need in your organization. So moving right along, Microsoft Teams is really a complete experience. It's going to allow you to integrate your calls. You can have enterprise voice functionality, so you could use it as an actual telephone system. You can run it from just about any device. Here in my office, I have a microphone because I have a door I can shut. I don't have to wear a headset, but if I'm walking around the office, I can do that. I can take Teams calls from my cell phone, which is great, or I can be at my desk, anywhere I really need to be. And so really it's a complete voice solution. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of things in terms of the workflow for the calling and go over that. This is the call panel, and we'll go ahead and dive into that for a second here. This is just a quick picture of a couple of different options for what you might be able to use for Teams telephone hardware. And so let's go ahead and we're going to dive into a calling demo. I have some slides here that we've prepared. And really this is going to show you what taking and making calls looks like, what the voicemail looks like, and then what transferring of calls looks like. So here you are. This is your typical experience inside of Teams. We're actually using Teams in the web browser. This isn't even Teams in a full desktop application, just in the web. And here, this user is actually Megan Bowen. She's a demo tenant. And so Megan's just having her day here. She switches over and she's noticing here, this is her speed dial that she has set up, and you can see the dial pad on the left-hand side there. That's great. And then all of a sudden, boom, she's going to go ahead and make a call. She goes out and she calls John. John was on her speed dial. That's fine. She didn't get him, so she just clicked the hang up button. That's fine. Under speed dial, you can see below that there's the contacts and the history, and so you can see those different options inside the calling panel. You keep moving on here. You can see here's her contacts list. Contacts, she can see all of her internal contacts as well as her external contacts that she saved, and that's great. You can see the call history. We saw that a few slides ago, and that's just, looks like she got a few calls. You can see her voicemail, and so there's the voicemail messages. And if we actually click on one of the voicemails, we can actually see a transcription of the audio, right? And so that's great. So we'll go back to the main Teams area, and we can see here in a moment, Megan's going to get a phone call. and that's John. Now, again, this experience is from the web, so it looks a little bit different, but all the same functionality. You can go and, you can see that functionality inside of any Teams application. You can sync your contacts from your phone and Outlook. They come right over, actually, Kim. Thank you for that question. The contacts are integrated to whatever you've saved into your Outlook address book. And then also in regards to calling, you go in, you get phone calls. You can do phone calls in the office, or if you actually have the dialing plan, which is what we're covering right now, you can make phone calls outside the office, no problem. And this would replace your traditional phone system. So John calls in, and we go in, she's picking up the phone with John, and she realizes, well, John needs to get to somebody else. So she's going to go ahead, and she has options here. You can see hold, transfer, park, consult, then transfer. And we're going to do a consult, then transfer. She puts her customer on hold, and they're in park. And then after that, what she'll do is she'll go ahead and click consult. When she clicks consult, it gives her the ability to search through the list of internal folks. From there, she's going to be able to choose one. She's looking for Johanna. So she finds Johanna, and she gets the option. She can send Johanna a message, and she could say someone's on the phone, or she could just transfer it directly. So in this case, she's going to go ahead and say, hey, can you help with the customer? Johanna says, she waits, the message gets sent. Johanna comes back and she says, yes, she can. And then she goes ahead and she'll go ahead and transfer the call, which is great. And so that's kind of what the calling looks like, and the call transfer looks like. And then here's the history of the calls, of course. Again, I want to show you this similar view here from the mobile experience on your mobile phone. And so here we are. You can go in, you go to your call history. This is the call history on a cell phone. And then you can see here, this is what it looks like to make a phone call, right? And you can go in and you can see your call history again. And that's what the experience looks like on the mobile. So let's go on back, and we'll go back to, Megan's main call panel here and point out a couple of other things. Somebody had asked a question, can you get a phone number? You're actually assigned a phone number by default based on what, is available, but you can also import any numbers you have from your existing providers and bring them in. And so let's point out that we have a couple of folks in here. If you look down the list here, this Richard Weissman is actually a contact, right? And that contact in particular isn't a full user of the system. They're actually just a contact she has stored. I know that because the user only has the icon over here for only the call, for the calling, rather than the chat and the video and the email piece, because we don't have all that information. The one other thing I wanted to kind of show real quick is if you were programming your auto attendant, you can go ahead and you could have really easy auto attendant rules. You can see here, this is when you do a call menu initially, we're going to say, hey, we want to do the sales team. We want to do the shipping team. We want to tell them press 1 for shipping, press 1 for sales, or press 2 for shipping, and then down here, you can see in the calling instructions that we have provided, we actually write these calling instructions out. And so those are just a quick couple of features that are available. You can see how easy it is to go and build the telephone on demand. The questions, a couple of questions in terms of go-to calls. Teams, very, very similar products and capabilities, but for Teams, they have a lot more of an integrated solution. Yes, you can bring your existing telephone numbers in, and then you could just make all the calls from your existing telephone numbers. You would have to port them into the system for sure. And then we also have a couple of other questions. I'm just dealing with these questions on the fly because they're very relevant. In terms of load custom on hold music, yes, the answer is you can go ahead and do that, custom hold music. So I'm going to stop sharing that. Give me just a second to get, there is call reporting. And if we have time at the end, I can show what some of that call reporting is. Microsoft does provide you the option to come into their package, but they don't actually help you with any of the setup, Julie. So you would need a partner or need to take on the setup yourself. So we're going to pause. I love all the excitement around the telephone product because I'm a user of Teams. Oh, yes. And there was one other comment here. I'm going to go back a couple of slides. Forgive me for this quick shift backwards in time. Someone asked a really good question about, hey, can you tell if somebody is on another call or not? And this screen here, if you look at Alex Wilbur, it shows that Alex is offline, Brian is offline. And so you can see what user statuses are. If they're online, then you can go ahead and it'll show you a red symbol. And I can show more of that if we have some time at the end. And I'll be glad to show my own live Teams call panel, and you guys can get my number and call me all day long. So very exciting about this. Let's talk about conference functionality a little bit, right? So everyone's doing calls, everyone's probably doing one-on-one meetings, group meetings, maybe a couple of virtual events, and that's great. Folks are probably, interacting with things in meetings. You're sharing a PowerPoint deck, kind of like we are now, and that's great. So those are typical things, that a lot of folks are doing inside of the conference, really. And you guys have seen these kinds of things. You can quickly, dial out for someone, and that's great. You can go ahead and call someone or chat someone on the fly. You can see from this screen, you can see the speed dials over there on the side and the presence in the upper right-hand corner. Of course, you can, go ahead and turn on virtual backgrounds or find different ways as you enter the meeting. None of these are things you guys haven't seen. They also have these live meetings and virtual events you can do. And so we'll highlight this just real quick. In terms of personal devices, you can have a physical phone, back here. I'm going to slide away from my camera for a second and come in and kind of highlight this. It's going to fade in and out, but this is a physical phone. It would light up over here and have a Teams panel on it. So you can use a Teams, telephone for sure. Or if you want to, you can just use a headset. A lot of customers just use headsets, which is really great. And so this package is $15 per user per month. That doesn't include any initial setup costs or, maintenance and things like that. But that's the product itself, $15 per user per month. And so you can do that. And you can also have large room systems with huge displays, share these in conference rooms and those kinds of things. So that's kind of back to the conference functionality. We're going to cover a couple of things live here. I'm going to switch to my Teams panel. One second. Flip my sharing to the Teams itself. So you share that. Okay, great. So all of you guys, I'm sure, have seen seen how to do scheduled meetings, right? This brought right in here to my calendar, and I could say, a new meeting. I'll say schedule a meeting, give it a title, demo meeting. That's fine. I'll come down here and I'll add Eleni, who, is our director of marketing, to the meeting, and she's apparently busy right now. I have no clue what she's actually doing. Maybe we'll make it for 6:30. Sure, that's fine. I'll go ahead and just say send. And then, of course, here in a minute, you're going to see this demo meeting come through. Now, this demo meeting, you come down into it, and I'm going to go ahead and join the meeting. You're going to get to see me with my, Teams video here as well. Here we are now. We have Teams and Zoom video. It's like a double picture of myself. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself so we don't have. Actually, I'll keep it on for a second. So I'll join in, and right now I'm going to be the only one in this meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have a list of people standing by, but I do want to highlight a bunch of really cool features that you can leverage. The first of which is turning on live captions, turning on the recording, which you've probably seen that. And then you can see at the very bottom right now, you can see the live captions. And so everyone in the meeting right now is seeing these live captions as I go and speak. So live captions is one form of transcription, and you can see that going right down here at the bottom, which is really cool. In addition to that, now that I've done live captions and they're turned on, you can see that the transcript is over here on the side. Now, at any point in time, I can close the transcript. I'm going to go ahead and also, even though it's really cool, it's also a little bit distracting. So I am going to turn off the live captions now. But let's say that I wanted to go back and look later, you can see that the transcript of all the communication I'm speaking is recording me live, and it's turning it into text, which is really quite cool, I think. So that's a little bit on the transcript and live captions. Let's kind of talk a little bit about some of these other things here. I'm going to leave this meeting. So that's a scheduled meeting. You've done that before. You also have this ability to do a meeting on demand with the Meet Now button. The Meet Now button, you can get a link to share. That'll copy the information to the clipboard, and then you could share that via email. It would open up it would open up a new email, and it has on another screen for me the one that I'm not sharing. And then you can just start the meeting. So this is a live meeting. We're not going to actually start it, but I just wanted to kind of highlight what this was so that we could see it. That's a live meeting. And so the live meetings are great for impromptu meetings. It saves you a couple of clicks that you don't have to actually, go and share out the meeting and send it. You could just, go and on demand, bring it right in. In addition to that, actually, after you're in the meeting at any point in time, and I don't know that she's going to pick up, but I'm certainly going to try her. So here we are in the meeting, and I will try to see if maybe I can pull in a couple of folks here, actually. So I'm going to call Eleni, and I'll call her in, and then I'll call my buddy Daniel. I don't know if any of these guys are going to actually pick up, but you can see maybe they will. And so here we go. I'm calling them in. There's Eleni Lepo. Hello. Thank you for being here.
Hey guys.
I don't know if anybody else is going to pick up. It looks like maybe Daniel might be trying, but we'll go ahead and you might have to mute your sound there for a second, Lepo. But if you look over here, guys, this is just, again, that live meeting functionality. And if you turn on live captions, as well as turn on the transcription, you'll start to see things. Hey, everybody, by the way, we're being transcribed. So why don't we get a hello from Jeff Kite? He's over there. He's picked up. Can you say hi, Jeff? Nope, maybe not. All right, Eleni, why don't you go ahead and say hi?
Hi, everybody. Long time no see.
Oh, sorry about the feedback there, but I just wanted to demo. You guys could see this transcription, and this can all be searched later. So that becomes really, really super, super handy. So I'll go ahead and we'll leave the meeting. Thanks, Lepo. We'll see you later. You guys can see that was what live meetings and kind of Meet Now was about. In addition to that, you can also come in here to channels and have meetings. And so if you come in here to the Teams group, and you can see here, this is the channel area for our engineering team. And so if you wanted to have like a weekly stand-up meeting, you can go ahead and do that inside the channel. And when you do that, after you've gone ahead and had the meeting, if you record it, you'll see here in a moment, I'm going to go ahead and say, record this meeting, and that's great. And I'll start the transcription, which it does automatically when you do record. Okay, great. We're recording. We need to put at least a minute in here. So while this is going, I'm going to jump ahead to a couple of other things that you can do. So one of the things that actually was the Zoom functionality they brought over these breakout rooms. And inside the breakout rooms, it'll allow you to create the number of different rooms for people to, be a part of. Now, I don't have any people in our room. So, I'll have to go ahead and create the rooms, but nobody's going to be around to jump in between rooms. So here we are, and you can see here, there's different rooms. Now, all participants need to be assigned to a room, but after you've assigned someone to a room, then you can go ahead and easily move between them. You can also, close a room, rename a room, join it, any of those things. So that's really easy from the rooms panel. Wanted to point that out. That's one of the newer features that they did bring over, excuse me, from Zoom. So I'll go ahead and leave this. And I'm going to show a couple of features now that I think are pretty cool, but they're not available inside of the live meetings. They're only available inside of a scheduled meeting. And so I happen to make this scheduled meeting for the webinar demo. And let's go ahead and if you go in here, you'll notice that for this particular one, there's this more actions and add an app. So inside of a meeting that you have, you can actually bring in an app that you've integrated into Teams. Now, one of the apps that I like to use is Polly and Forms, both of which do a really good job of driving surveys in the midst of a meeting. And so if you look up top here, you can see for Forms, I've already created a couple of polls and I've invited a couple of folks to this meeting. At any point in time, after you've gone through and created these polls, you can launch them in the midst of your presentation. And then boom, here you go. Right here, you can, capture your answers to whatever they, your participants say, and you can see in real time, what the answers are to those questions. And so that's really awesome in terms of kind of getting that feedback on demand. Now I just closed that poll out. If you look at this one, let's say that I'm not very energized and we'll change my response there. Now you can see, here we've had 2 responses, super energized, not very energized. So that's great. And then you can do things like export the response and those kinds of things and see the details of what came through. So that's a little bit about polls and extra apps that you can use inside of meetings. We'll go ahead and we're going to cover one more thing in terms of the Teams meetings. And it's really this Teams webinar functionality. And so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say new webinar. We're not going to cover a live event today because it requires a special E3 license, but you can do the webinar here. And so I'm going to say Teams webinar example, right? The required presenter, who's going to be the presenter here. We're going to say Eleni is the presenter. That's great. And then we're going to say that it's from 2:30 to 3:30. Great. And so there is a registration form that your participants can get, right? And you're going to allow responses and request responses. You want to have registration for everyone that gets this. So if we go into the registration form itself, you can see here is the generic title, right? We're going to add the title. The title is what? It's going to be called Teams Webinar Demo. We've already set the time. The description is we want to share fun stuff with you. That's great. You can upload an image if you happen to have one nearby. I just have this random image. So I'll pick that and that looks.
Adam, we're actually not seeing the page you're working on.
Oh, my apologies and thank
That's
you
all right.
for your help. 1 second. To screen this one. Okay, how about now?
Yep, looks good. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So I was sharing and it was only sharing the one window. That's why we didn't see the whole thing. My apologies. So I just uploaded an image and that looks great. And then of course you want to add some specific fields. For me, I want to make sure that I capture the job title as well as the organization name, and I'll make both of those fields required. After I've done that, I'll go ahead and save this. Oh, the time is actually has to be later in the day. Didn't like that, so that makes sense. And I'll go ahead and say save. Be sure to invite the presenter. And we didn't actually have a presenter saved, but you can see this is what it looks like. Now, if I click view in browser and I bring this over here, here we have the actual demo. And this is, the registration for things. Now I haven't saved it, so it's just a preview yet. So I need to finish editing it and saving it. But from there, that's the whole webinar. Now, when I click send, Of course, it's going to, put the webinar Teams webinar demo. It's right there, okay? And you can see it has this different icon. But that's what Teams webinars are about. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And that kind of covers all that we had inside of this space of meetings. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the presentation for a minute. And let's see what's up next. So let's talk about customization of the Teams application itself. And really what we're going to cover here is customizing the sidebar, some notifications, devices and calling, and some other functions inside of channels, and then some tabs and chat and moderation. So we'll go back to the Teams, go to desktop 1, great, and I'll click on my Teams. All right, so inside here, the first thing to point out is this sidebar. You can see that we have the sidebar here, and these are just different apps that I'm going to cover inside of our presentation a little bit. But these are different ways you can reorganize all this, any which way you want. So that's a sidebar. Pretty simple. You can right click things that aren't there yet and come down here and you can pin things and they end up sticking down there. So that's really great. The other one that I really like to cover with folks is the notifications. If you click on the triple dots and you go into settings, under notifications here, you can decide, well, do you want to see notifications on your desktop for all activity, for mentions and replies, or do you want to customize each of these settings? Now, for me, I don't really want to see any of these other things. I just want to see this one piece inside of my feed. And so this really gives you granular level capability to making changes for any of these different notifications, really, that makes sense for you. And so that's really great. You can also set this thing I find really useful is it will go ahead and email you once every hour, 10 minutes, 8 hours daily, whatever you want, things that you miss. So things you don't see in Teams right away. So that's really great and a really, good one that you can use and leverage. So we'll come out of that. Actually, one other thing I did want to show you in here while we're here is just this section under devices. Inside the devices, and really there's another one here, it's your voicemail. You can customize some of these settings. You can automatically adjust your mic sensitivity or do a test. You can also do this high fidelity sound mode, which will help and really start to put echo cancellation and those kinds of things for high fidelity audio. So that's really awesome. It's a little bit on the devices. If you come down here to calls, these are some pretty cool settings. Let's say I go on vacation, right? I just want to forward my calls. I want to forward them right to voicemail. Maybe I want to forward them to my personal cell phone number, or I want to forward them to another contact inside of the organization. So that's pretty cool to do. You can also see here that we have the ability to configure our voicemail. And so you can record a custom greeting, and then you can let the caller record a message, or you can let them record a message and be transferred, all kinds of cool options there. This was a little bit on the pieces that I wanted to cover earlier and forgot inside the voicemail. Out of office greeting, you can go ahead and say, when I have an Outlook auto reply, then go ahead and do my custom out of office greeting. And if you click record a greeting, it's starting to actually record that greeting right now. So I didn't actually intend to do that.
Main menu. To listen to your voice messages.
And that would take you through the prompts, of actually recording those different messages. So we're going to cover a couple of things inside of the Teams area, and then we're going to jump into integrations kind of at the same time. And so inside the Teams area, you can see here on the left, you have all these different teams that you're a part of. Now for us, we have a lot of different channels. Well, maybe there's a lot of information here, almost too much. Maybe you don't want to see it. Well, this is a channel that I don't really need to see. So I'll click hide there, and then that goes away, right? I can hide these channels and only bring them up as I need them. So that's really great, as it'll simplify the list. And then down here are the hidden teams if you accidentally hid one that you didn't intend to. One other functionality that I think is really great, and I'm kind of demo what this looks like, probably with the help of Eleni, is inside of some of the, I went ahead and hid one of the channels. I didn't mean to, probably. So this is just a regular engineering channel, and we have this one called Standards and Updates. If you right click it, you can get the channel's email address. Well, what does that mean? It will create an email address for this channel itself. And if you copy it and then you go ahead and send it an email, it will actually post it right inside of the thread of the messages. Now I'm going to move this inbox out of the way here, and I will send a new message real quick to the channel and say hi. That's great. And then after a moment, you're going to see it's just going to come right up in here and show as an actual email message. While that's coming up, I want to point out a couple of these other options that we have, and that's inside of managing the team itself. So you can manage members and groups as well as the owners. And then inside of each of the channels, you can manage these same settings, right? And so inside here, we have, here's this channel. We can edit it and we can call it something different if we want, or we can go ahead and really kind of manage each of, the channel permissions and moderation for what is going on inside the channels. And so you can go through, and if you put channel moderation in play, that's going to limit the ability of what folks can do inside of that channel. So that's pretty awesome, right? In terms of what you can do and kind of those different aspects of what you can manage. So that's a little bit about the channel and moderation. And then of course you can add a new channel at any time. When you go to do that, it's going to prompt you with some questions. Sorry, I think it didn't pop up. Let me try it again. We'll say add a channel. And then, you can choose between whether it's a private, a standard channel, whatever kind it is. So that's pretty awesome. I think the other thing you can see here now that this email did come through, I have notifications disabled, but when I emailed the engineering 365 standards channel, it came right through here, which is awesome. And so you can see the whole message. That's pretty great. Now I want to point out and kind of close out these highlights with the integrations piece, as well as what you can do with some of these tabs and other apps. And so I'll go through that piece now. So we have really, the integrations up top here. You can see you can add tabs. And you can add all kinds of tabs, guys. I have so many tabs that I could tell you we could add here, more than I could actually cover in the short amount of time that we have. But I've already preloaded a few tabs for viewing. This one here is just a website. So this is our YouTube channel. And so this is just popped up here at the top. And that looks pretty cool. That's fine. You can also see they have this thing called a Microsoft list. And so this is a list that we've created, which kind of helps us keep some standards organized. And we did this really for demo purposes. But this is a list here called a rollout tracker. Now, if I click on it, you can see that I could expand this tab, and that'll make it, full screen and kind of hide the rest inside of Teams, which is great. Or I could even pop it out into a brand new window that's separate and on its own. And from here, I can then make edits to all these different things. So that's one integration. That's the list app. And if I click up here, I could actually, if I come over here, I'll say, here's Asana. Asana is another task management system. I don't know if anybody in the audience here, you guys could just show with a thumbs up or something like that in the chat. You could say, yeah, we use Asana. You're familiar with task management, and we have Asana integration here. So let's actually go through integrating one more here. And what I'll do is I'll integrate what's called a Microsoft list and show you what that looks like on demand. So if you go and you say, all right, great, we're going to add lists here. What are we going to add? We're going to create a new list. And you can see here, you could either import something from Excel that it would generate into a list, or you could go ahead and create a list based on one of these templates. And so this work progress tracker, you can see this is kind of what that looks like. You have an asset manager, which has pictures and serial numbers and asset tags and those kinds of things. which is great. Excuse me. You could also do travel requests, so you can manage all kinds of lists that you can go in and use for whatever you want. I'm going to cancel this out because we're not going to actually create that list. I will go through a couple of other things here. This is our documents. And so our documents that come through are just SharePoint documents that live, on the other end in our SharePoint site. You could get to them. So if you click on files, you could also see, this is the same exact file structure down here inside of the engineering channel. If you move this up just a little bit, you will notice this recordings folder. Inside this recordings folder, you can see a meeting that I did 15 minutes ago, which is great. There's the recording. It does automatically when you do, and we don't need to watch it, obviously, but you get the idea. So this stuff is really, really well integrated with each other. I'm going to highlight 3 other apps pretty quick and then review a couple of other ones. One of which is kind of Viva Connections. So if you're already using any form of a SharePoint site, you know that you can have the SharePoint landing site show up inside of your team's application. And so if you had like a first line worker, or you had somebody that was in a sales role and in the field working from an iPad, they could run one single application, get to their news feed, see what's going on, and never have to leave Teams itself. And so you can see here, these are all the things we have going on. We have the weather shown for our different, cities we live in. So that's really great. That's called Viva Insights. And really that's, again, a window inside of what you're going to see from your SharePoint sites. The Viva Insights, the Viva Insights is another area, and this is really built around mental health to help show you, kind of how you're doing. And so this tells you there's lots of different things you can do. Do you want to protect time, add some focus time, maybe a half an hour a day every 3 days? Yeah, sure, I'll book that time. And then that time would go on my calendar. I can also see what my level of connection with other colleagues is by the Stay Connected area. Sorry, this is delayed in loading. I'll go back to the home page. So you see we've gone ahead and we've booked focus time. That's great. You can also recharge with a mental break, and this would give us a 5-minute mindfulness exercise. We can talk about how we're feeling and kind of just recharge that way. So that's Viva Insights. Viva Learning is another one that is pretty awesome. It's a new integrated learning experience that Microsoft has. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see there's lots of different courses here that are available, right? So you could do like stuff if you wanted to learn how to co-author in Excel. And when you click into that experience, you can see here, you can get, a free set of courses and different videos that you can watch and keep learning. Microsoft's providing a lot of this content right in the experience here for you for free. And so you can just watch it and consume it right here. One other thing that I want to do, and then we'll shift to questions, is talk about the Champions platform. And so the Champions management platform is a app integration that you can bring inside of Teams that'll allow you to kind of create ways to drive engagement through gamification. And so if you look here, you can reward points based on different actions that folks, go to do. So if you create a new tournament, you can see, hey, every time somebody adds a, one-on-one chat, I want to give them 10 points. If they send a GIF, I want to send them 10 points. Mark it as urgent, I'll send them as 10 points, and so on and so forth. And then the result of that comes in, and you'll see a leaderboard of folks that have participated. Now, of course, I intentionally rigged this for me to win here, but this is really cool because you can come in and look at, the leaderboard overall and see what folks' participation is looking like. So that is most of kind of what we wanted to cover here. I think we're going to jump into one last section here on how we can help, and then we'll open up for questions. I apologize that we've run over a little bit. There's a lot of content here that I had to jump through, and here we go. So typical ways we'll help folks with different kinds of engagements, right? We'll do all these various, email migration, SharePoint, OneDrive migration, Teams adoption, data governance and compliance, security, and of course, like modern desktop management with Azure Active Directory and Endpoint Manager. And that's pretty much it. Eleni, are we at the right point in the meeting here? Did I get us to questions and answers?
You did. We're here. And
Awesome.
We do have a good many questions, so let's get started. One of the questions that came in was regarding handsets in the office for calling from Julie.
Great. And so, yeah, Julie had asked, are we using handsets or are we, doing headsets or just calling from your computer? And so in our particular organization, we are doing a little bit of both, mostly on the other end of using the computer directly. And we've kind of stopped using, handsets. There's a few folks that still like to hold on to their physical phones, but mostly doing either webcam with a built-in mic or, some form of a physical headset here, something like that. Yeah.
All right, we have a question from Adam. Is the 15 per user per month fee in addition to the standard Microsoft E3 license that you need for Teams?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So with regards to the question there on the cost, it's $15 per user per month. You do have to have a base Teams license that's included in one of the other Microsoft 365 subscriptions. But that $15 per month is on top of your base license, whether your base is E3, whether your base is Business Premium, whatever it is.
All right, awesome. When you use a transcript for a meeting, can you later print the transcript to share with others? That's from Andrew.
You can export and print, yes.
Okay. All right, Laura asked a question. Can a person dial in to a call-in number instead of using the app on their phone?
100%, yeah. And whoever asked that question, who was it, Laura?
Laura, yeah.
Thanks for that, Laura, because one fun fact to know is if you actually use a Microsoft 365 license now, they're actually giving audio conferencing out for free with every Microsoft 365 license. The only limit is that you only get 30 minutes of dial out. And so if I'm dialing out to call someone into a meeting, that's when it costs extra money. But if people are calling in, you have an unlimited amount of that.
We have a question from Anne. In webinar, are automatic messages sent to registered guests for reminders, and how many can you send?
There is an initial registration as well as a reminder. It's one reminder though. At this point, it's really limited in functionality, and this kind of goes to the question that was asked earlier of, hey, why aren't you using Teams yet? Because those options of sending out multiple meeting invites and those kinds of things don't actually fully exist yet.
Hopefully we'll get there.
Yep, hopefully we'll get there.
All right, we have a question from Trish. Can you set up Teams to automatically open to taskbar every day?
Can you automatically set up Teams to open taskbar every day? Do we mean, Trish, I might ask you to turn your mic on and elaborate if that's possible, or to chat and elaborate. In terms, you can set Windows or Mac to have Teams launch every day automatically, for sure, when you log on. I think that's what you're asking in the taskbar. So yes, the answer is yes to that.
Okay. All right, we have a question from Keith. Do the call recordings go to your emails? And if so, are they transcribed?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of telephone call recordings, their telephone call recordings is not a capability native yet. Meeting recordings are, and they don't go to your email. The meeting recordings go to your OneDrive folder in that recordings area. And so, but from there, you can pull the transcription. There is the capability, Keith, that you can go ahead and investigate in a third-party solution, which would allow you to do things with the call recordings for regular telephone calls that aren't meetings.
All right. All right, Michelle asked, is scheduling a webinar an additional feature?
No, it's included in native Teams offerings now, so you can get it in every plan you have with the exception of Teams Free.
All right, thanks, Adam. All right, we have a question from Mikkel. Does Microsoft have a consulting department I can connect with on developing a plan to sign up for the calling plan and getting my office phone numbers ported over?
They do not, but we do. And we do professional services. All they really offer is really their documentation as a resource, which is okay. But if you're not technical, you may find it to be a bit lacking. And so we offer folks help in the form of paid engagements to help do Teams. We've done several of them, and we're doing probably one a month, on average.
Great question. We have a question from Chris, a little bit of a longer question. Our employees use a remote desktop server. We have found that remote desktop to be mostly incompatible with Teams. We can't use the desktop version of the remote desktop server, so we have to use the meetings outside of the remote desktop in order to get audio and video to work.
Yep.
Are there any plans from Microsoft to make Teams more compatible with remote desktop? Thank you.
I'm so glad you asked this question, Chris, because this is something that we see a lot in a virtual desktop environment. So some of the newer stuff that Microsoft's providing, especially inside of its own virtual infrastructure through Azure, is very friendly with Teams through a remote experience. We actually were doing demos and running meetings from Microsoft Azure-based virtual desktop offerings, and it's called Azure Virtual Desktop. So Microsoft has stuff that's there in their newer solutions, and I'd be happy to chat with you, Chris. We can, grab your info and do a follow-up if you want to send it in the form of an answer, and I'll be glad to get on the call with you and give you some more detail on that.
Great question. All right, we have a question from Billy Joe. Can you show some reporting options management that can be used, I guess, for auditing?
Sure. Yeah. Give me a second and I'll load those up. If you don't mind, Eleni, please asking the next question while I load up the reporting options.
What type of integration would be needed to use a desk phone?
Really nothing. Just that there are a specific set of physical phones that have capability with the system. So you'd need a Teams certified device or a Teams native device. But after you have that, really you just have to, install the phone and set it up. So you don't really require much. The Teams phones on average cost around $300 is where about they start.
All right. Let's see, how about, where can I get the basics of Teams information? Like what is a channel?
Yeah, great question. So I'm gonna bring up two things now on my screen, and I'm gonna switch sharing sources here to desktop one. Okay, so what you guys should be seeing now is this nice hair. This guy's really nicely done hair he's got gel and all the things, he's smiling. So this is adoption.microsoft.com. Right up top here, you can see there's a training button. And inside of it, you can see there's all kinds of options for end user training. And so inside here, you can find on-demand video, tools, and getting started features. This is the basics, but this is a great place to start. So that's the adoption resources.
We'll be sure and share this link in our follow-up email.
Yep.
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and show a couple of user activity reports real quick here for the person that asked that. So this is a Teams dashboard. So you can only get access to this if you actually have a license for it. And some of this information is anonymized, but you can see the activity of the users over a point in time here. And so this kind of shows you, the user's number of messages, channel messages, all these kinds of things shows you the Teams user activity over time. In addition to that, you could see Teams device usage, how it's breaking down. You can also dive into specific users, and I'll bring up myself here because I don't mind. There's my phone number if somebody wants to give me a call. There it is. And there's my email address. But here we go. The 7-day quality, this shows you my phone calls, shows you my meetings. If you go into voice, you could see, I could do outbound settings and all that, but under meetings and calls, this information is, I have to come back in here and refresh it, but it would show all of the call data that you're talking about. And that would show me what's going on there. And then you could even dive down and kind of see that user activity that I was talking about and download that or export it out to Excel. If this data isn't enough, there's also things that will interact with Power BI that we can help set up and integrate to get more call analytics. Just requires a little bit of, work in terms of integration.
All right, thank you. We got a couple more. Let's see, are there any additional webinars or resources on how trainers for new employees specifically are using Teams? So we kind of covered a little bit of that.
Yeah, so the adoption website that we're going to send out has all kinds of resources for lots of different folks, champions, or folks that are adopting the product or pushing on adoption. That's there as well. And so, yeah, that's definitely something that you can find all over that resource for sure.
Okay. Per Microsoft, we have a question from Bobby. Audio conferencing is no longer free. Do you have any links or documentation for it still being free?
Bobby, that's crazy. Are you serious? Bobby, I see your name here, so I hope you don't mind me calling you out. Thanks for being here. Give me 1 second and I'll pull that up while we answer these other questions.
All right. A question from Laura. When I set up a meeting in Teams, there's no option to include a dial-in number. What am I missing?
You don't have the audio conference licensing actually yet. And so I'm going to go ahead and highlight this information here. And so over here, and of course, good news always comes with some bad news when it comes to a lot of these things, guys. But I will show you here, desktop number 2, you should be seeing a web browser. Is that right?
Yeah.
So inside here, you can see this is Microsoft's announcement from back in August, okay? And they did say, hey, we are giving folks the capability. We've seen dial-in is a great experience. And so we are going to give people the dial-in for free. And so I think there's a link down here till, from now until May 31st, 22, users can add audio conferencing with a license. Starting March 1st, audio conferencing will be included in all Teams inclusive Microsoft 365 and Office 365 announces, or Office 365 products and licenses. So that's there. And then once you have that Teams audio conferencing phone number, that's when you can leverage license. That's when you can leverage the phone number. I'm sorry.
Perfect. All right. And how should sub-teams leverage group chats versus channels?
Yeah, great question. And so really, inside of the Teams groupings, you have all those different channels. And the way we typically recommend it for folks is we ask yourself the question of, is this a message for the audience as a whole? If so, put it in the general channel. If it's for a smaller audience, create a channel and add members there for specific topics, whether it's a customer, a policy, management thing. But you can structure that any which way you want. The key there, Lawrence, is that you go and you give folks the information on how they should use the communication in a structured way.
All right. And it looks like that is it for questions today. Adam, if you can share our last slide, that would be great. Just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. We hope that what you learned today is going to help you get the most from Teams. and hopefully everybody learned something new. I know I did. So I always do learn something new from Adam. If you have any additional questions, or if you'd like to schedule a follow-up conversation, we have some ways on the slide that you can reach out to us. You could email us at consult@kitetechgroup.com. You can give us a call, or you can visit our website, learn more about us, or complete a contact form there. We'd love the opportunity to learn more about your business and see how we can help. Also, just a reminder, if you could take a minute to complete our survey at the end, it's super brief and we'd love your feedback. And just want to thank you for joining us and for being a part of our audience today. And we hope you have a good rest of your day.